what was it about Daredevil, Born Again, that made you want to come aboard? What was the story that grabbed you and says, I really want to be a part of this?
Well, I was a massive fan of the Netflix show, and so I was just like thrilled when the opportunity to interview for Born Again came up. And then when I like read the scripts and I met the team, I was just like, I really hope they pick me. Like I was so just like excited about it, and I think Daredevil in particular, I just love how like dark and gritty and emotional the story is. You know, it doesn't kind of like nothing is like sugar coated in that show. It's like always just very grounded, and I've always just thought that was so interesting, and it's an interesting way that you know, obviously the fight scenes are really brutal, but it's like you have to have these big emotional beats to get to the fight scene for the fight scene to pay off. So I just like that there's always such exploration of like emotion within that show.
It's interesting. There's questions where when you have something that has, especially superhero action fighting, making sure as the editor you find the emotional story has to come first or that doesn't pay off.
Yeah.
Do you have that struggle once in a while, like, oh, we had to pull back a little on the fighting? Or, you know, ramp it up a little, or the
yeah, what's interesting is, like, early on, like, sometimes, I know there's, like, one episode where, it's the bank episode, where Matt runs and breaks this man's leg, and it's brutal, and I think the shot played for a really long time, and they're like, oh, we gotta pull it back, but then once we had, like, dialed in more of the tension and emotion of the episode, that got extended again, that shot, so it's kind of, like, finding that balance always, you know.
And sometimes it's set up and you can pay it off only if you set it up well.
Exactly.
You have to earn the broken leg.
Exactly. Yeah.
All right, episode 8, Isle of Joy.
Yes.
There's a ballroom scene.
There sure is.
Kind of a big climax.
Yes.
What was the approach to that? Because it's such a pivotal climactic moment in the show.
Yeah, that I think is maybe one of my favorite episodes of television I've ever cut. It was so much fun, but yeah, it was such a collaboration, I think, over, you know, months with every single department, and that's what maybe made it feel so special to work on, because everybody just brought so much to that episode, and it's, you know, even, you know, my assistant editors found there's like a final needle drop at the very end that's like this like choral song, choral hip-hop song that kind of like made the episode, you know. It's like all of these people lended such interesting things to it, and so the approach I think was just very collaborative, and our directors Benson and Moorhead of that episode also like say they love surprises, so it's like I had kind of this window to just like play with the footage in a way that you don't always have a chance to do.
I'm assuming with all these great elements and so much pressure, this one took a little longer to edit, that sequence?
I don't know that it took longer, but it definitely it took a lot of rounds to find the exact right tone for it, because I think we went from like we had like a Lynchian like musical vibe with it, and then we had jazz, and then we had wedding band music, and then we had like we kind of went through so many different things to find the right tone. But yeah, once we dialed that in, it was awesome.
It does seem like as an editor, small changes can make a difference. It's not always a big dramatic, even a song, a needle drop, one little moment when to drop in the music can actually alter everything.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think that episode is a prime example of that. There's even like the shot of Fisk doing finger guns in that episode. That wasn't in there for a long time because I was like, is it too much? I can't decide. And then I was like, I'm just going to try it and put it in there. And it's like one of my favorite shots. I was like, I hope this becomes a meme or like something. And I think it did. So I was like, I've succeeded.
Cool. Go back in time. What made you initially want to come on Hawkeye?
Yeah, so I was working with Chris Beck, my mentor at the time, and we had just scored WandaVision, you know, a year or two before that, and as Marvel's, you know, expanding their TV universe. And so then, yeah, we jumped on Hawkeye, and it was fun just kind of, you know, diving into another character, especially one who got, you know, kind of overlooked through all the Avengers movies, and really got to have his own moment in the Marvel universe.
Now, what I like about your show is Hawkeye is it's based more in the real world. Mm-hmm. They don't have superpowers.
Yeah.
And so for you, how was that kind of making more, I don't want to say a realistic superhero movie, it's really the only way to ask.
Yeah, no.
So how was it developing instead of having the superpowered big universe?
Yeah, so we talked a lot about like being much more grounded.
Yeah.
And I think it helped too with the setting, like New York City, Christmas time, and so we're bringing in these other elements, like Christmas music. We were like reference some Christmas carols and have certain vibes to that, and then also this in the New York setting. And it's such like an intimate story that it's kind of almost like a heist, and sort of like has this sort of like kind of thriller vibe to it, and so that kind of influenced like with our use of percussion and rhythm section, and making it feel like a more smaller, sort of almost like Ocean's 11-y sort of vibe to it.
And it's still superheroes, though.
Exactly,
so
yeah. So, but then sprinkled on top, we still have like the big, heroic themes.
I like also, obviously, Haley Steinfeld is amazing in the show. But I like it also, we have a young heroine, a younger, we'll call it teenager. How is it developing a theme for her and music for her? Because again, more grounded in reality.
Yeah. And I loved, working on her theme because she's so sassy in the show, and like she's so fun and just like this, just has so much energy and like kind of spunkiness and this like rebellious attitude. And so that's something we talked about with her music was, trying to keep that feeling, and like, Haley's performance is incredible, and like, really trying to mirror that it's just fun, it's energetic. But then there's certain moments, especially like with her mom, where it's more intimate, it's a little darker, and they're just processing these different things, and so we're able to sort of flip it when we need to get more nuanced and more a little more dramatic.
I also think villain, we could off Florence Pugh for a moment, because she was technically the villain of the story.
Yeah.
How is that also, now you have another real character dealing with real emotion instead of superhero. How was it developing music for her character and her battle with Hawkeye?
Yeah. So I think what was fun with that was we took Lauren Bell's theme from Black Widow, where she was first introduced, and then we were able to kind of like retrofit it and have it fit within the context of the show, and so using that theme and like her sound, which has a lot more gravitas to it, and able to find a way to mesh with Hawkeye and Kate Bishop's themes, and finding ways to kind of sort of combine them. And I think that was really fun. And with Florence's character too, we had sort of came up with a different like sound palette that's a little more electronic and a little more darker, because she's so serious in the show, and like when that collides with Kate, who's like spunky fun energy, so there's like the fun like elevator scene when they're fighting each other, and you just kind of go back and forth between their two personalities. And I think that was fun, like incorporating those
But
together.
it must have helped with WandaVision, because that's a really dark story, and really about trauma.
Yeah.
So you think that helped you kind of graft that, having the emotionality from your past work fit into this one?
Oh, for sure, yeah. I mean, I always joke like I was an emo boy growing up, and so like I love leaning into that, the drama of different characters, and especially processing trauma, and I feel like and Agatha as well, like each character kind of has their own demons that they're battling with, and that affects how they treat everyone else, and what their journey is in the story. And so I think really honing in on that musically is so enriching, and just able to grasp that and like really explore these deeper levels of these amazing characters.
All right, so the Penguin, opening shot of the series has Penguin looking out in the world, the destruction of the world.
Yes.
What was the challenges for you, because you had to set up this whole new version of Gotham?
Yes. So both the opening and closing shots of episode 1 start from above and crane down, and then we crane up at the end. We did not shoot it with any cranes. We shot it the camera's level, and we only decided in post, like, wouldn't this be a great way to bookend the episode in the series? So we had to digitally recreate the whole environment to give us this nice 3D moving through the city, which, happens. Some might say, like, oh, well, why didn't we plan for it? It's an organic process, right? As we edit, as we feel out the tone, we discover things in post, and as a visual effects supervisor, I try to accommodate and suggest, hey, if you guys are thinking this, why don't we try it? And it's my job to bring it to fruition.
I did say, I like one of the shots I really liked, flood, water.
Yes.
When we actually see Victor, the family die. Water's always difficult.
Yes.
What was the challenge in that? Because you have this massive thing, we're seeing the flood, but we're also seeing from a character point of view.
Yes.
Blending real and then I don't want to say the action, but,
Sure.
action of the flood.
Yeah. The sequence was we storyboarded the whole thing, every shot, because one is just a critical. That scene, Victor's whole story arc pivots on that scene. Because if you don't feel what he's feeling in that scene, he has no point of view for the rest of the show.
Right, yeah.
So, as a viewer, we knew how important it was. We knew how important it was to get the viewer in Victor's shoes. So we made every shot only what he could have seen. So instead of showing each of the bombs as these big one-off shots, we kind of obscured them behind buildings and things, so there's only what this kid could have seen. No dramatic camera moves, just making it something that felt human and felt real, that his helplessness of not being able to help his parents, help his family, is reflected that by the fact that we're only in one position, that we can't go anywhere with Victor.
One of the shots is after the Penguin's lair blows up. Sophia, you not naughty girl, blows up. We see the aftermath in the city, like a real bombed out city, which felt more real to me. What was the process of creating that look? Because it seemed like you really wanted to make something that felt more genuine and real, but it also had a lot of visual effects, of course.
Yeah. Initially, that scene was not scripted to be shown. It was meant to happen off camera. Oz was meant to duck and hide in a tunnel, and then we see the aftermath of what had happened. So in the edit process, I kind of felt like maybe they did want it, we just thought we couldn't afford to do it or we didn't have the resources. So I put a really rough version together. We called it a temp effect, where I just cobble it together so the editor has something to work with to see what would it be if we saw the car explode? What would it be if we cut to an aerial shot seeing the sinkhole form? And that helps the editors, helps us envision it, and we ultimately said, we love it, let's go for it. So we created those shots just from other pieces of footage that we had and digitally created the explosion.
But I think it changed everything, because now we understand his point of view much more. We needed that.
Yeah, it's one of those things that, in television we often try to rely on other processes to not show things too much because it's more about the writing. But I think that was one of those cases where we just had to take it in and see the scale of it, see how it added to the degree of how far will Sophia go by showing the magnitude of that explosion.
Yeah, and she does like to poison her family, so
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So overall, the whole entire show. We have students that watch the show. What scene do you think are you most proud of? Something like, I can't believe we pulled this off. You should take a look at it. If you're trying to tell students, like, to look at something like, really, it could be even a small moment. It doesn't have to be.
Yeah. Here's a small moment. Is episode 7, end of episode 7. We're in the flashback and we're visiting the jazz club at night. Very critical scene for young Oz and his mother. We never shot a nighttime exterior of the club. It just was something we never got, and now the edit needed it. So what do we do, right? We can't reshoot this. We can't bring all the actors back. So I got my visual effects team together in our office just with a pop of green screen to shoot ourselves as patrons of the club, and took a daytime plate of the outside of the club, used VFX to make it nighttime, and then we composited our visual effects crew as the patrons of the club standing outside of it. And it was one of those, you have your big expensive effects, and then you have the things that we made in our kitchen. And visual effects really isn't about having all this money. It's really just being creative to, like, what can we do with string and scotch tape to make the story work.
And small, it's like you said, small effects can change the movie.
Yeah.
And that's was really special about it.
Yeah, so it's a simple shot, and the people you see are actually visual effects crew members, and it is just needed to get us to that story point. Yeah. And because of that, it works really well.
What initially made you want to come on board Minecraft?
A very lucky set of events. So I've done a bunch of movies with Legendary, with Kel Boiter and Mary Parent over there, and I think Minecraft was our 5th movie together. And Cale called me one day and said, we've got this movie coming together with Jared Hess, and I was like, stop, okay, I'm in. Jared's like a complete hero, comedy hero for me. And we went and met. I think he met with a bunch of candidates, and we just hit it off. We absolutely hit it off together and had a great lunch and shared a lot of the same comic sort of sensibilities. And he hired me, which was a red letter day. It was great. I was very happy about it.
The movie has so much, we'll talk about comedy in a second, but the movie has so much going on visually, but also has a dramatic story you got to tell. From the editing standpoint, how did you want to balance that, making sure that the awesome visual and the fun of it doesn't fully drown out whatever the character moments you want to portray?
That was, I think, like with any picture, that's a challenge, but particularly on this, right, because there was a certain amount of fan service, if you like, that we had to check those boxes. And then we also had to make it an engaging emotional experience, which is where Jack Black just oozes that kind of charisma, and he was able to kind of spend a lot of time with our younger cast member, Sebastian Hansen, who played Henry, and he was, I would say, instrumental in that, finding the heart of the film. A lot of that came from Jack. And then, visual effects-wise, it was a massive undertaking to take these 8-bit, in effect, video game characters that everyone was used to, and creating a photoreal environment for that. And that was, I just have to hand it to Dan Lemon and his team at Weta Digital and those folks. They did the most extraordinary job.
I'm curious. All right, so then what was the most challenging sequence for you to pull off?
Hands down the prologue. So, the first, we were either going to nail it or we were going to get eaten alive, right? With our first 30 seconds of the film.
That's extreme.
and it was, given this fan base, right? That we had to get it right. And we had, I mentioned on our panel that we had, I think, 35 iterations of the first 2.5 minutes of the movie. Different people narrating it. And then eventually one of our producers, Cale Boyter, came up with the idea of why doesn't Jack? And it sounds like a really simple, why didn't we think of this? But actually, that was a game changer for us. When our lead character, Steve, then became the narrator of the film, it just made the whole thing feel incredibly personal and like it was his story, which is ultimately what Minecraft is, right? As a player, you are building your own unique story. And you'd say to six folks, go build a post office in Minecraft. Every single iteration of that would be their interpretation of what that should look like. And so that's why the movie's called a Minecraft movie and not the Minecraft.
It's interesting that we have a lot of editors, students in the audience. It's a good lesson that sometimes minor changes everything, especially when you try to set the tone of the film.
I mean, absolutely a game changer. And one of our producers, it was his idea. And I can remember Jared and I were quite resistant at the time. We're like, well,
of course.
And then we tried it out, and it was like, yes. Yeah. So that was a really interesting. That whole prologue was something we went round and round and round because, as I say, if we got it wrong, we would have been literally eaten alive. And so that was the toughest sequence.
Well, thanks so much for joining us. From a creative standpoint, what was it about the story that really made you want to come on board?
Well, I fell in love with the books. I love to read, and I always felt like if there was a way to combine my love of reading with the love of music, that would be the ultimate thing, right? And so I read, in 2019, I discovered the Wheel of Time series. It was a gateway to fantasy for me. I read all 15 books, and they're kind of door stoppers, They're all like 1,000 pagers. And I got a chance to fall in love with Robert Jordan's world. And so I was given the chance to join Lorne Balfe's team on the music side. To help tell that story, and it was kind of a dream come true for me. So I got a chance to be the music team lead for season 2, and then I wrote an original song called "The Hills of Tanchico" in season 3. So it's a dream come true.
So how is it be able to develop the music over the course of a whole season? Sometimes they only come in for an episode. It must be great for you to kind of see it through.
Absolutely. I think there's so many character through lines that you get a chance to see. The world building, of course, is a big factor in determining how the music is created. And then you also want to find that musical through line, whether it's thematically, maybe you have like character themes, but where the characters end up at the end of the season is going to be very different. So it's like, how do we recontextualize those themes, make it feel different and make it feel apt for the scene? So, there's one particular character, for example, Egwene, who is a very innocent character, and her vocal theme kind of reflects that innocence. Later on, the show takes a darker turn in season 2, and we twisted and warped her theme a little bit so that it feels like a twisted version of that innocence. So yeah, it's fun to find these little ways to, have an arc musically, I guess you could say, even through a season.
When you have such a wonderful, vivid world, it must be sometimes challenging to keep it grounded on the character.
Yes.
Is that something like focus? We got to keep the music based on the character and let the visuals tell its own story.
Totally, yeah. I think one thing about the characters that I loved about Robert Jordan's world is they are so grounded, even amidst this kind of crazy, unique world that Robert Jordan created. So, that juxtaposition is really great. So I feel very fortunate that he laid that groundwork out for us. So then it's a question of like, okay, let's use instrument choices and things like that for musical world building. But in the end, what does this character represent? Egwene's character represents innocence. Matt has a bit more of a mischievous side to him. Rand has more of a kind of a like a prophecy of a legend kind of a feel. So you try to express those things musically, and then you maybe use geographical locations and those types of things to help tell the story, from a, I guess, world building standpoint.
I don't mean to put you on the spot. It's like asking a parent what's their favorite child. Is there any theme you really like? This is one that's really special to me.
Yeah, I would say right away. I feel very grateful to Lauren Bao for giving me the agency to kind of run with this. But getting to write The Hills of Tanchico in season 3 was a culmination for me of my musical interest, which is taking instruments from different cultures, combining them in weird ways. Where it's like, what is that sound? Where is that from? I can't place it, And if you can't place it, then it belongs to this world and not like, oh, now we are in this geographical location in our world. Right. So, combining Malaysian instruments, African instruments in a sea shanty, it's like, it almost seems like a disparate combination. But when you put them together, you create something that feels cohesive and belongs to that world. So that was like my absolute favorite dream come true.
All right, so Wanda, what was it about the show that really made you want to come on board?
Let's see. Skydance reached out to me. I'd been talking to them about another project, and then they reached out to me about Wondla. There had been a little bit of a shift in creative talent, and they had an opening, and they were looking for someone with my caliber, where I'd done both TV and film, because they wanted to produce a TV show that was going to be of film quality. Yeah. That was intriguing.
Yeah.
First of all, because like when I worked on things like Troll Hunters or Star Trek Prodigy, we're always trying to push the quality and bring the quality up. And now here was a project like, we are going to do feature film quality. And then the story was also very intriguing for me, in that when I had interviewed with Skydance earlier about another project, I was, speaking with them about the project that they were talking to me about, and then I was like, what's that you're doing over there? And they're like, oh, that's Wanda. That's another team already. I was like, okay. So early on, I was interested. Yeah.
I'm a big fan of the music.
Yeah.
Joy Nagoy.
Yeah.
What do you think she enhanced the story from the musical standpoint?
I think she would always ask about, what is your character feeling? What's the protagonist feeling? She was always coming at it from the point of view of what is Eva, our main character, feeling, so she could help bring out the emotions and the story point, in every episode. And she just seems to have an innate understanding of what the scene is about and how to bring out the emotional poignancy of it.
And that's true, because a show like this, the character drama could get lost.
Yeah.
In the wonderful visuals. That's something very conscious of. We want to make sure that the character never gets lost.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And that's something we're very, very keen on. Like, I learned that from John Lasseter. It's always telling the story through the protagonist's eyes. What is the protagonist feeling? What's the point of the story here? So everything comes from that.